Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital with studios at 88 to 90 Abercrombie Street in Port of Spain, Trinidad. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, on the show, you just heard from Paul Richards. We'll hear from Richard Ragabarasing. We got Shane in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. Let's get straight into the WT, see what's happening, weather, and oh my goodness, that traffic yesterday. Starting out in the east-west corridor, approaching Piaco Light, you've got some traffic. Trinity City towards UE, slow going from Val Saint to El Socorro, and after that, you'll pick up traffic again by Swim Call. All right, heading down San Fernando. Got nothing to tell you about. Rivulet Road is beginning to get a bit heavy. Your traffic on your solo is starting right after Freeport towards Sugargones, and then slow going Charlieville toward the interchange. All right, that's a quick one for you. Traffic-wise, let's take a look at the weather, see what's happening there. What's the Met Office saying for our weather forecast for today? I don't know, but here we go. Let's see if they updated it. They did. It is 26 degrees, both islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Piaco and Crown Point to be precise. Sunshine will likely be interrupted by a few cloudy intervals with showers, especially between late morning and mid-afternoon. There's a medium 40 to 60% chance of isolated thunderstorm activity. This evening will be generally settled apart from isolated showers. Street flooding, gusty winds are possible in the event of heavy downpours. All right. Checking some temps across our listenership before we say hellos to those that are watching us on YouTube and on Facebook. Good morning to you. It is 9 degrees and cloudy in Toronto. Miami, you're 22 and clear. Orlando, 16 and like my face, clear. New York, 10 and mostly clear. Let's see, Atlanta, 9 and clear. London, cloudy and 17. Wow, okay. Tampa, you're at 16. Washington, D.C., Chris, you're at 8 degrees. L.A., you're at 18 degrees. All right? That is just some places that listen to us across the globe. All right, let's see who sent us hellos on Facebook and so on. Oliver Man Warren, good morning to you. DJ Ray out in Delaware, good morning to you as well. Mo Gaines out in Aruca. Anthony Tinto in Canada. Doreen Pierre, Wendy Ann James, Marcia Rock, Edwin Marshall, good morning to you. He said it's a cold and rainy day here in Switzerland. Oh my goodness, Edwin. Lorna Kalu Singh, good morning out in Barcelona, Spain. Good morning to you, Lorna. Morning, Indy. And of course, we have to say hello to Carly. Wayne B out in Covington, Georgia. Carol Guevara, good morning. Karen Yipnow, Dennis Passad, Brenda Isaac. Good morning to you as well. All right, and let's say good morning, good out to the one, the only, drum roll, Paul Richards.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Paul. What's happening? What's happening?
Good morning to our friends in Barbados, Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe, where there's a tropical storm watch in effect. Tropical storm Tammy, which is expected to become a hurricane after striking eastern Caribbean islands.
Yeah. I saw that this morning. I said, whoa.
It could threaten northern Leeward Islands. It doesn't pose any threat to Trinidad and Tobago, but a bit of rain later on today.
Yeah, boy. That was a downpour yesterday, and boy, that was traffic. I see Penelope Spencer said it took what? Over 2 hours to try to get from Newtown to Belmont.
Yeah, I left the office at 2:40 yesterday. I didn't reach South Key until minutes to 4. Took me an hour and a half to go from Abercrombie Street to South Key yesterday.
What?
An hour and a half to leave. I left Abercrombie Street. And it's only because I saw traffic moving across Park Street. I dodged across Park Street, but then was confronted by traffic by the time we got to Charlotte Street, leaving by Oxford there. It took me an hour and a half from Abercrombie Street, a little over an hour and a half actually, to South Key. And then when you got to where the old homeless people place was by Besser Street there,
Yeah.
No traffic.
Wow. There is water there now, though. By the way, by South Key, where that mosquito spa is, the left lane is still flooded. So people are using the eastbound lanes to get across, and some are going through the water.
It was really bad yesterday.
That was horrendous. But didn't they
God
have
forbid
police?
someone had an emergency.
Yeah, but didn't they have the police out trying to direct traffic? Or
Yes, they did. I don't know if they went out early enough.
I know the bus route was opened after 6.
Which was late too, because I mean they should have opened the bus route all 4 o'clock. The problem is the reaction and response. This is always after the fact. If you know traffic is starting up, because traffic started to pile up as early as 2 o'clock. I mean, really badly.
Yeah.
So by 3:30, you got information, which you should, because you have cameras all over Port of Spain, presumably, and or officers who could tell police command, listen, there's a traffic situation building up. Suggested the Minister of Works you open the bus route because people are having difficulty leaving the city. By the time 6 o'clock, I mean, the damage is already done, eh?
Not exactly. You're already 4 hours late.
Yeah. So, I mean, the response was really bad. It was weak at best.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I did when I got to Besso Street, I was getting off from Besso Street onto the overpass there. There was absolutely no traffic, but there were police officers there directing traffic.
I looked at Waze yesterday afternoon, and
whole map red in Port of Spain.
The whole map was red. Queen's Park, Savannah, going into Maraval, Lady Young Road, top to bottom was traffic.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people say downtown flood.
What is the no?
Yeah, downtown flood, let's take Lady Young Road. When I left the office, by City Gate was beginning to flood. Water was right across the whole road, but it was shallow.
And I don't understand the reluctance in those circumstances, because as I said before, you must know by 3 o'clock, worst case scenario, 4 o'clock, that there is a serious gridlock in the nation's capital. And open the damn bus route. Or you think you're saving pitch?
You're saving pitch.
Open you understand? That's what we pay to maintain it for.
But I heard
the situation. Jeez. So Freedom Highway pack up, Eastern Main Road pack up by the time, because at that point everybody's leaving and getting out at the same time.
I heard the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Honorable Rohan Sennan last evening saying that the only reason they didn't open the priority bus route earlier was to get the traveling public out of Port of Spain via the maxis through the bus route.
And how did that work out?
I have no clue. I have no clue.
I just, you know.
I saw a picture I saw a couple of pictures heading out of town, getting into Port of Spain if you're on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. And from people I saw on posts that they were not moving for hours, they switched off their car. The PSN meeting is saying,
you're right, because there was a point when as a matter of fact, as I drove out of the building, our car park on Abercrombie Street, Avril was just leaving with her daughter, who just left school. And I let Avril pass out, and Avril and I stayed in front of our building for 20 minutes and didn't move.
It's a good thing you had gas in your car.
I kept looking at the gauge because it was on half. 20 minutes and did not move. I said, this one's serious today. And this was minutes to 3. The gridlock started at 2 o'clock. There was gridlock on Monday because the road by Queen Street 14.
All in the back is seen clear had traffic. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was, but you know, okay, so you had problems getting out to the capital. So usually if the highway is pretty much clear, it's easy to get out. What was causing the traffic on the highway? Because Barataria and Curep, Tunapuna, the east-west corridor didn't really have rain. I don't know. The PS and waiting, let me see what he's saying here. The PS and waiting. Morning, PS and waiting. PSIW. He says, we try to ensure commuters out of Port of Spain. And this is the response to why the Port bus was not opened earlier. If the PBR is crammed, the more vulnerable population suffers. It is not only about the motoring population. The turnaround time for maxis becomes significantly longer. Folks suffer and wait at Citygate when the PBR is opened during the peak period. You know, one thing I forgot to check yesterday was to see what time high tide was.
I try not to random with your letter. I try not to steer on it. That response. That's just say in the past. Mm-hmm. I've seen the bus street open much earlier, and it cleared the traffic a lot quicker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that thing about Maxis turning around, and please, you have responded late. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even saying opening the bus route is the only answer. I'm saying the state, including the police, responded late.
Yeah. I think the traffic department and the TTPS should have been out early, ensuring that, because they leave it up to the population, will cause more traffic.
In other jurisdictions, what they do, when they see this thing developing early, they send out alerts on your phone.
Yeah, we don't get that.
Please be advised.
We don't get that.
Heavy persistent rainfall has caused flooding in downtown Port of Spain, which may lead to inordinate delays leaving the capital going west and east.
Mm-hmm.
Please take the necessary evasive action and obey the law.
Yeah, we don't get that. We can't even get the call mobile.
When you're in traffic jam for 2 hours, that's when we know.
Mm-hmm. You don't even get a text alert. Well, sorry, you don't even get calls.
Police officers are on the street directing traffic. Please obey the lawful instruction of officers to help alleviate the situation. We don't get that at all. We in there.
Yeah. And there's no plan.
And you know what I think should happen? And people are going to not like me for this at all, There are some streets in Port of Spain. There should be absolutely no parking allowed. Not on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not on Tuesday, Thursday. None. None.
Mm.
There should be no parking on Park Street, ironically.
Actually, if there's one street that should be no parking, it should be Park Street. But there was talk about
absolutely no parking at any time.
But there was talk about an emergency plan to get out of the city. Let's say something was to happen. This same situation will occur. We
there
talked about it, but that is all.
Major areas in Port of Spain, some major streets, that there is absolutely no parking any day, any time.
Mm-hmm.
But let me say, between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. You understand?
Yeah.
Absolutely no parking between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. Monday to Friday. None. Because very often the indiscriminate parking is what also adds to the traffic.
Yeah. You're right about that.
Mm-hmm. Park Street should be no parking at all. None.
Ironically.
None. Morning,
Good
morning, guys, and good morning to our viewers. And good morning to our viewers and listeners, wherever you are.
How long it took to get out of Port of Spain yesterday afternoon?
I waited.
Till what time?
Wait. You're right. You're just to wait. Don't
I waited.
Stay in the office and do work.
I waited till about 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Was it clear then?
It was not clear by the Savannah, the going around the Queen's Park Savannah.
Yeah, that was standstill.
That was still pretty heavy, which affected, of course, because I'm uptown, which affected my exit, but much less so at that time. But I could still see the Queen's Park Savannah was terrible. But heading downtown was easy. And heading east.
So you look here. Remember that
easy.
your office, not everybody's office has a minibar like you.
A minibar.
And a work theater.
Minibar.
And PlayStations.
Oh, sorry.
And a well-stocked canteen with Heineken.
Oh no, we have no such things. But but yeah, I have work to do because I'm going on vacation shortly, so I had a lot of things to wrap up. So it was a good opportunity for me to take that time to deal with a lot of stuff. So but I could see, because from my office I could see what's going on.
Yeah,
from my office windows I could see, and I'm like, what the hell? Because I expected this stuff to clear up at least by 5:30, 6. No such thing.
Again, there was talk about an emergency exit plan out of the city, but again, that was just
out of the city. Getting out of the city was not the problem. The issue was particularly Queen's Park Savannah. I don't know.
No, Richard. No. I left Abercrombie Street with Avril at about 20 to 1:45. We stayed in front of the building for 20 minutes and did not move. Going back around, I got to Park Street, and even though I maneuvered up, what is that, St. Vincent Street? No, St. Vincent Street is going down, or going up, St. Vincent Street. Going south, I should say. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to get from Abercrombie Street to Besser Street. So it wasn't going away from
an hour, because I was just after the rain. So some of the streets had very high volumes of water, because I did leave the office at around 2 p.m. to go to get something to eat. And all I did was make the block. Because when I got into the traffic and I realized what was going on, I saw the volume of water, because it was just after the rain. And there was a volume of water on the road and stuff like that. I just made the block and went back in the office and said, I'll just have coffee.
Yeah,
but I stayed in the office then. But the point I was making is that at 7 o'clock when I left the office, Upper Port of Spain was still in a jam.
Yeah, but I'm talking about lower, when most people try leave.
Yeah, but downtown and exiting Port of Spain was smooth.
But at 7 o'clock, I'm talking about time when most people are trying to leave is between 3 and 6 p.m. Yeah, and that was major, both uptown and downtown. Anyway, a Superior East Secondary School student has been expelled. This could be the subject of our question this morning.
Yeah,
after she was seen in a video verbally abusing the teacher. A formal letter was sent to the girl's mother on Monday. The girl was previously suspended. And I was telling a friend of yours who's a friend of mine yesterday, who's hot AF. Because she was really disturbed by this development. Right? And we were talking, and she was saying the family apparently reached out to her. She reached out to the family because she was just disturbed by the fact that she was told that the girl was suspended, and she found it was, unfair. And I said, you do not have all the information.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, you have information from the family, and I understand your empathy, but you probably do not have all the information. I said, because they do not just move legally to suspension from zero, to expulsion from zero. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's a process by which a student can be expelled from a school. It starts with a suspension, an investigation, probably a second suspension, rehabilitation, and then if all else fails, if the child is seen to pose a threat or has threatened a teacher or students, then it moves to the extremely drastic, rare stage of expulsion. I said, so don't jump on social media and say nothing unless you get all the information.
Yeah.
A couple hours after, the ministry sent out a communique stating that they have unfortunately reached the stage of reaching the last resort of expelling the child because there was a history and the child was suspended before for disruptive and unruly behavior, cursing the teacher, threatening and using aggressive, intimidating behavior toward the teacher and gross disrespect toward them. Now, I agree with our friend who is hot AF that the intervention of the ministry shouldn't end at expulsion. The ministry needs to say, you know what, this is a 16-year-old. And this is a human life that is clearly in need of intervention, and provide an alternative to being in that school situation. You understand? Some sort of rehabilitation program in lieu of being expelled, so that we as a state make an attempt to save this child. Because if we just expel the child and turn it back, guess what's going to happen there? And there are some private, extremely disturbing mitigating circumstances which have contributed to this child's behavior that may not have been brought to the fore, or people don't understand why the child is acting out like that. That need intervention. Okay? So
Yeah. But does the Ministry of Education have that kind of infrastructure? I don't know. I'm asking.
well, they should. I'm not. My issue is not that if they have it at this stage in a modern education system, they should.
Well,
You understand?
should and would.
Yeah, but I don't know that we could be spending $8 billion a year this fiscal and in the last couple between 2015 and 2019 we spent $41 billion in the education sector. You understand? $41 billion. So I don't know that, and I know that there's my lot and my part and those kinds of agencies that when parents can't manage children's behavior, they can put them in there for a different level of boot camp kind of intervention.
Well, I mean, no, I get the overall holistic view of it. I get that. What's best for the child, and because it's still a minor.
It's a child.
But I do the letter, of course, which made the rounds yesterday, and I mean, you even saw the child's name,
which is unfortunate,
was visible in some of those social media, some of those viral posts. The letter seemed very final.
Yeah, well, the ministry said it's final. Expulsion is the last resort for the ministry.
It didn't seem that there was some window open for the Ministry of Education still to treat with you in some other way outside of the streamlined educational system. The letter didn't give you that. The letter basically said you're out of the system. Goodbye.
And that's my issue with it.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically.
And clearly the attempts at rehabilitation earlier on, which the ministry stated in the letter, had failed. Because you can't, and somebody put it in our post, Karen, you can't rehabilitate the child if the problems originate at home. You can't rehabilitate the child alone. You understand? If the problems originate in the home. And most of the times, those problems originate in the home.
Well, dysfunctionality in the family unit, and how does the state treat or intervene in that is always a difficult and hard question, because
we have a whole ministry of social development and family services.
Well, dysfunctionality comes in all kinds of forms, eh?
A whole ministry.
And and some people say every family has its own measure of dysfunctionality.
You see, let me tell you what my issue is going to say.
But,
we see news stories of women with 5 and 7 children living on their own in squalid conditions. And very often it starts like this. You understand? Because then she has no education. God forbid she bunks up some criminal out there who she runs into his arms because she don't know, not very evolved thinking. And this story is not a novel story. Then by 18, one child, hopefully is not before 18, and I'm not wishing this on the child in any way, so people want to jump on themselves. But it's a cycle. And it happens over and over, and then she's unable to take care of herself or make the kinds of decisions to protect herself from that kind of life. And that's why I said it shouldn't end here. Shouldn't end here. So the question this morning I'm suggesting is, do you agree with the ministry's expulsion of the child?
Yeah, I mean, that's a simple and to the point question, which I had noted last night when I was looking at the story. Of course, in the videos that we saw, I also thought that there was a certain amount of dysfunctionality with other students in the classroom, quite frankly, who needed also to be suspended, quite frankly, in my opinion, because they seem to be complicit or encouraging in terms of
and
the
cheering on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to them, because
But I
that
don't know if the school undertook a program to deal with the whole class and use it as a teaching moment for the whole class. You understand?
Yeah.
And so listen to me. What we saw in that video was wrong. We are dealing with the person at the center of it and the teacher. But all of you also need to be debriefed about what was wrong with that and what was wrong with you cheering on as if it's a Hunger Games scenario. You know? So, because that is not the appropriate one. One of you should have gone for help, or you should, if you had not cheered on, maybe it would have been less.
Well, I think it's a teaching moment, not only for them, but also for other schools and children in other schools. In terms of how you deal with that kind of behavior. So certainly it should have been a tool used by the teachers, for especially senior students, older students, that look, this is what happened, because if you can't use social media and what goes viral as a teaching tool, I don't know what you can.
Yeah.
Because to me as a teacher, you should have used it. If you're in a classroom and it comes under your remit, you should use that as an example and say, look, what's wrong with this behavior? Let's look at the other students in the classroom, you know, because there is a social contract, and you can't. It's virtually impossible for the state to intervene in every family unit because human beings are so diverse. But where rebalancing can occur is in the school system. That's where the state has some measure of intervention. In terms of
I disagree that because part of the education system is the family, and if the state can't identify, because a lot of the time most of the problems with children in terms of academic performance, emotional behavioral issues is linked to the home, and you cannot remediate the child alone. That is standard procedure. You have to look at the entire familial system and see if the child is getting nutrition, if there's conflict in the home, because you cannot remediate the child alone if it originates in the home. Cannot. It's not going to work.
How does the state in Trinidad and Tobago deal with that, Paul?
The state goes and has a meeting with the family and asks if we can help.
And if the family says we want to have no meeting,
has other mechanisms at its disposal. If they think if they think the situation in the home is not in keeping with the best interest of the child. For example, this case, if and I'm saying if because I don't know, if there is a situation at home that the child is being abused or the child is witnessing violence in the home that's affecting the child's ability to function effectively, if the child is not being fed properly, if the child is not being supervised properly, there's a standard of care required by homes and parents, and the state can intervene.
That's all wonderful words. What practically happens on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago?
I'm not saying it practically happens. We're talking about what should happen if the state is acting effectively. Our conversation started with, you said you don't think the state can intervene, and I'm saying, no, I disagree with that.
No, I'm saying I don't think the state can intervene in all family situations.
Yeah, but they can try.
There are some situations where, yes, people are receptive and change can happen, but there's some where there is no reception at all.
And you intervene in those.
You can intervene in those.
Well, yeah. So there are situations where the state can intervene.
Yeah, but I'm saying there are some where it's very difficult.
Richard, we could go to the extreme with the conversation with everything in life.
Yeah, I mean, teachers are the best positioned ones to talk about this. But in some of my interfacing with teachers, some family units are unreachable.
And some are.
Yeah, and well, some are. But you also have the issue of fear with some teachers with regard to how some family members act.
And it may not be the role of a teacher.
And
That's why the ministry has hired more and more social workers all the time. That's why there's a field called social work. So I mean, we're spinning in circles with the conversation. That's clearly
yeah, I mean that's the
nothing is
idea.
going to be absolutely everything works, but there are interventions that should be in place anyway. What else is happening? I see unfortunately. Well, today we're going to hear the Regulated Industries Commission will have a news briefing from 10 to 11 a.m. Steve, I think we should carry that. I know Charles is going to be off today.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, at the Hilton Trinidad Conference Center. I'm sure TTT will carry it to tell us how much more they can put it in how much nicer as they want. They're going to tell everyone more we're going to pay for current electricity. Okay?
Yeah.
About its plan determination for the electricity transmission distribution sector. Yeah, we're going to find how more we're paying for current.
Yeah. I don't know how the population is going to receive it.
Well, I'm sure they don't know. Brace. You understand?
I don't know. They don't know.
Yeah, they know. They're not going to. They might not accept it, but they don't know all the musings and the commentaries from the state and the government and the minister and the preparation. Well, we have the context that we have the lowest electricity rate in the Western Hemisphere, and we don't know it coming. They set it up already. They've been setting it up for 2 years now. So let's not pretend they ain't setting it up. Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Okay. So there will. I'm sure there's going to be some pushback. I'm sure there's going to be some commentary about the time we're living in and the crushing cost of living on the lower socioeconomic groups. I'm sure we're going to hear the business community say, well, our operating costs are immediately going up depending on the start date for this. And so we will have to, it will impact our ability to hire people. You're going to hear the plethora of usual responses. It's going to become a political football. The government will get blamed. Normal. Taxi fare will go up. Doubles will go up. Steve will be in this trip.
I don't think
a one-man protest.
I don't think they're also. I don't think that they're also supporters of the government. It will become a political issue, but I don't think supporters of the government are also saying, "Oh, please raise our electricity rates."
Exactly, but I mean, and the political football in the context of the political commentary is going to come from this. Because they've been using it already, but we'll wait and see. 10 o'clock ain't too far away. You understand? Yeah. The Prime Minister is in Canada. And he asked Canada to help CARICOM and Trinidad Tobago combat crime. He referenced the major arms finds in Santa Cruz as he illustrated the proliferation of illegal weaponry in the country. He identified Canada's role in improving TNT in the region's border security through the acquisition of vessels, and I was giving some boats. And he also said cybersecurity remained on the region's radar, and efforts to address its threats were important in fighting crime. He said the laws which exist today do not cater for the population that exists today. The laws, quote, the laws catered for a different breed of people when there was some moral compass, some underpinning of good behavior, some expectation of integrity in the institutions. After all, he said if the legal responses were not adjusted, then the courts would become a mockery for the criminals. Do you have papers?
I do, actually.
Would you care to regale us?
Sure. So I can start with the Newsday for Thursday, October 19th. The main headline is Stakeholders on Dragon Gas Deal. I don't know if you talked about that at all.
No, didn't.
Kiss of Life for TNT. Stakeholders on Dragon Gas Deal. Kiss of Life for TT, Trinidad and Tobago. The main picture is that of, it's called Gridlocked. Motorists heading in and out of Port of Spain were in gridlock traffic on Wednesday afternoon after heavy rain caused flooding in several areas in and around the city. And so there is a picture of, there's really a picture of South Key and the flooding that usually occurs in that area, and showing how cars are being diverted off. And on the back page of the Newsday, Eve calls Nations League run huge success as TT reach quarters. Warriors to face USA. So that's the main headline on the back page.
Arch nemesis.
What's that?
Arch nemesis.
Yeah. Fatima stay top of SSFL, Naps and Prez in goalless draw. So that's the front and the back page of the Newsday today. Moving on to the Trinidad and Tobago Daily Express, front page story. Shocking poverty. Cops dismayed by toddlers' living conditions at Dabadie home. Shocking poverty. That's the headline. And of course, that was also a news item that was making the rounds yesterday when they discovered those toddlers. And there's a picture of the conditions in the home. That's the headline story. Subheadline, Canada CARICOM Summit. Rowley calls for crime help and court awards fired port boss $0.4 million. And on the back page of the Daily Express, we qualified coach Eve Boyd despite 5-3 defeat to Curacao. So we dropped to second place, I think, in our standings.
I think he still did very well, you know?
Yeah.
He's been
Uruguay, Brazil, and upcoming ICC World Cup matches. All that's on the back page of the Daily Express. Moving on to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. And the front page of the Guardian, what did they go with? I'll tell you now. Help us fight crime is the headline they went with. Rowley appeals to Canada for support, wants help with small patrol vessels, police training, and cyber security. And there's a picture of Dr. Rowley meeting his Canadian counterpart, Justin Trudeau. On the front page also, you have flooding in Port of Spain. Subheadline, several cases of chicken pox reported at Five Rivers School.
Is that weird?
What?
Wasn't that weird? The chicken pox stories.
An electricity rate increase to be announced today. That's how they phrased it on the front page of the Guardian. And there's also a picture of flooding in Port of Spain. On the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, TNT boxers ready, so says Cox. And that's it. Our 3 dailies this morning.
All right. And let's get into this morning's poll. Before that, let me get the final results from our poll from yesterday. Yesterday, we asked you, do you think Consumer Affairs should continue investigating the credit card discrepancy issue? That was our poll yesterday. 100% said yes. 100. All right, let's get into this morning's poll, as we suggested earlier on. Before let me just say hello to a few people. Dennis Prasad, Brenda Isaac, Ingrid Adams, Rennie Mohammed, Cheryl Ben, CPT Singh, Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. The great Slick Money Grip, good morning to you all. Carlisle Cupid, how are you? Huda Wells, Ewart Ratchpole, Beauty Culture, Richard Duku, good morning to you. All right, this morning's poll, gentlemen.
Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Of course, that expulsion letter, in one form or the other, some more redacted than others, made the rounds on social media yesterday. So, do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Yes or no? That's simply our question this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app, you'll have to send your votes via the comment section on our YouTube stream, since our message board is no longer functional. So, 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? That's our poll this morning.
All right. You also send us a message via YouTube and Facebook. Yes or no? Pass says no. Carol Guevara says yes. Maria Marva, good morning to you. All right. Let's get some votes in. Let's get some calls in. 222-8255. Toll-free number for North Americans. 866-525-1099. Good morning, caller.
DJ Ray, yes.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Morning, DJ Ray. How are you? Out in Delaware.
Walking some horses here. Ooh, terrible. It's cold.
Yeah. All right. What's your response to our poll?
Said yes already.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, you said
agree.
yes. I didn't hear that. All right. Thank you, DJ Ray. All the best. Stay warm.
All right, brother, man. Take care.
All the best.
All right. So, do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? And of course, that's related to the viral video where you saw the 16-year-old being hostile to the teacher and calling her mother on the phone and saying, "Come down now." Yeah. Well, that said girl has now been expelled. So, do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? That's a poll this morning.
Lorna says yes, absolutely. Ish out in Malik says yes. Julia S. Batiste says yes. Wayne Joseph in Ontario, Canada says yes. 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Yes or no? All right. You got 10 minutes to vote. Of course, our guest next hour will be, we're supposed to have him on yesterday. He's on today, Martin George. So you'll hear from him. Mogain says, sorry to say, but yes. Beefy Smith, been a while, Beefy. What's happening with you? Said yes. Wayne B. also says yes. Vaughn Drayton, yes. Josie Richardson, yes. Good morning, caller.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Ingrid Adams, yes to the pool. Slick Money Grip, yes. Anu says yes. Reynold Robert says yes. What says you, caller?
Good morning, Brandy. Yes, 16 years in Form 3. That says a lot.
This is a lot about the education system.
Our poll, do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of a 16-year-old female student? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans toll free at 866-525-1099. People on the web and app, you can send your votes via the comment section in the YouTube stream where people are voting as we speak. You gave Ingrid Adams and you gave Reynold Roberts already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yep. Ambrose Blah says yes.
So do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Yes, she was expelled, in case you did not know. The letter made the rounds on social media. I know some of you are not on social media and may not have seen it, but it was redacted in various forms and made the rounds, and it was signed off by the minister, basically expelling the student because of her behavior, disruptive behavior in the school system. She was expelled. So do you agree with it? And the
So
video
the story states that the student had been previously suspended for her actions, which included disruptive and unruly behavior, cursing the teacher, threatening and using aggressive, intimidating behavior toward the teacher, and gross disrespect toward authority. This is not the first time the student has had incursions with the management of and the faculty of the teaching staff at the school, and there had been some attempts at rehabilitation. The family of the child expelled was referred to the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, and the community police, so that those ministries and agencies can reach out to the family and offer support available under their remit to a young person and the family.
Yeah. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yes.
Morning.
Yes.
Thank you. Ooh.
Well, it's also a lesson to other students there and families.
Right. Trini in Cynthia Ramsarup says yes. Trini in Boston says yes. Guy Small says yes. Alan Reese, yes. Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Yes or no?
Steve tried to get the honorable minister on this morning, but he got some voice notes.
I did yesterday when
Just saying.
when the story broke.
You can tell Paul wouldn't be there anyway to get through. Paul is off for the week. Can you come this week?
I don't want to say it. Not saying it. God, Karen, you're killing me here.
Leave Karen. Why? Whatever. Karen has the right to express himself.
Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? Of course, social services will now get involved.
All this is not like all this so sure.
That's true.
I didn't say that the social services getting involved. You know, I said the ministry said that the parents have been referred the parents to. I guess the way it sounds to me that they can reach out to these ministries to seek intervention, counseling, therapy, etc. They didn't say that the ministry is going to call them. Okay. But I agree that some of these children, when they are beyond the management of their parents, should be referred to Milat and MyPart boot camps. I don't want to use the word boot camp, but there's a very good programs for young people who have not been able to be managed by their parents or guardians. And I mean the success stories of those two agencies, very, very astounding. When you reach it, them don't make joke. If you think you're going to get on home what you used to get in there, how you used to get on home, you have another thing coming. And then they end up having productive lives, and Sometimes the intervention needs to be harsh. But everybody's respond to talking to, as I was saying earlier on. A lot of the times, most of the times, the origin of this behavior is at home.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't she call the mother on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
And said, come down now.
Come now. You with this nonsense here. Come now. Which means she felt comfortable enough. Because if I was going like a fool in school, me ain't calling my mother at all.
At all.
You understand? That's the last person I called him. Because I will get the cut skin on the school step.
In front of all my friends.
In front of everybody. And that's the difference now. She think and she called the mother. Mm-hmm. I'm doing some research now for my presentation and budget on
Tomorrow.
this kind of issues at school and the challenges that some of these students go through. And that's why I'm talking about it, because a lot of it occurs in the home, and it's not exclusive to Trinidad and Tobago.
No, it's not.
Truancy and emotional behavioral issues, and a lot of it just because they have so many dysfunctional families. I mean, all families have some level of dysfunction, but some families really have dysfunction. So, I mean, to me, you can't just turn your back on a 16-year-old as a state, you know, because then in 4 years, we read a story about this child, God forbid, in even more dire circumstances. So, our question this morning, we just have a minute again before you can respond, and Avril comes in with the news. Do you agree with the Ministry of Education's final decision to expel the 16-year-old female student recently seen on the viral video behaving quite badly in a classroom toward a teacher? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't even begin to do that.
What? Let's go to school. You can even raise your voice.
Mm-hmm. My mother used to say, okay,
Straight as a pin.
you know, based on the egregious nature of that act you committed there, you have 3 days of cutters to get.
Yeah.
Cut skin. I'm gonna say that with sorry, I withdraw. Tat. Sorry, Tat. Sorry, Tat.
Would say,
sorry.
don't make me call your parents in.
Your letter. Sorry, Tat. Sorry, I apologize. Sorry.
Don't make me call your parents in. Will you quiet like
she used to say, you have 3 days. That's 3 days. So, and I ain't giving you in succession. You're gonna get it when you least expect it. So if you get 2, you know one's still pending.
Wayne Joseph says she is not the first and will not be the last.
Sorry, Tat. Sorry. I'll type in that letter already, you know. I apologize. Okay.
All right. Well, let's
Evie
is in, so let's get into our
Avril. Let me talk to Avril. Avril?
Yeah, hi, morning.
Did we not remain stagnant on Abercrombie Street for 20 minutes yesterday after we left the building?
It was more than 20 minutes.
It was more. Yeah.
No, it was half an hour. It was
half an hour. Yeah, I underestimated. We did not move.
We literally didn't move.
Literally did not move.
We were just sitting. In fact, I put the car in park.
I was going to come and take and have some coffee, but
yeah, I would appreciate that. We just stand there, and do you know it took me an hour and a half to get home?
You're lucky. It took me an hour and 40 minutes to get to South Key.
Yeah, it was ridiculous yesterday.
Yeah, it was bad. News is next.
You sure about that, boy?
Wow.
All right, let's get into our major news. Avis and Hill Babbitt.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has asked Canada to help CARICOM and Trinidad and Tobago combat crime. Thousands of motorists and pedestrians delayed for hours yesterday as heavy rainfall in Port of Spain caused flash flooding and standstill traffic. The Health Ministry confirms several cases of the chickenpox virus at the Five Rivers Secondary School. And a Saparia East secondary student is expelled from school after she's seen in a video verbally abusing a teacher in a classroom. Details in a moment. This is News to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has asked Canada to help CARICOM and Trinidad and Tobago combat crime with a focus on eradicating the illegal firearms and ammunition trade and bolstering security across the region. Dr. Rowley made the request during the opening of the three-day Canada-CARICOM Summit in Ottawa, Canada. The Prime Minister was leading a response to Session 3 titled Haiti Regional Security when he recounted the horrors associated with illegal firearms and bloodshed to several leaders, including Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Dr. Rowley said in recent times there has been an explosion in the use of illegal arms and ammunition on a daily basis. He said the data now shows that we are losing by violent killings about 15 people a day in the CARICOM region, nearly all of it from the use of firearms, and there is a proliferation in recent times of assault weapons. He said illegal firearms in the hands of criminals had worsened the risk to national security. Dr. Rowley referenced two recent major firearms hauls in the Santa Cruz area as he illustrated the proliferation of illegal weaponry. Dr. Rowley identified Canada's role in improving TNT and the region's border security through the acquisition of vessels. Thousands of motorists and pedestrians were delayed for hours yesterday as a heavy downpour in Port of Spain caused flash flooding and standstill traffic. There was flooding on Richmond Street, South Quay, Charlotte Street, Queen, Edward, and Abercrombie streets that caused bumper-to-bumper traffic. Motorists also spent hours in traffic along Ryston Road, Independence Square, around Queen's Park, Savannah, and South Quay. While some pedestrians braved the floodwaters, some had to wait as long as 2 hours for the floodwaters to recede. Taxi drivers were also affected and could not ply their routes. The priority bus route was open to vehicular traffic from 6 p.m. until midnight yesterday to allow motorists to leave the city. Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinanan said yesterday that flooding like what occurred in Port of Spain yesterday is a problem that is happening around the world. Sinanan said there was a macro plan in place to come up with solutions to minimize and mitigate flooding. The Health Ministry has confirmed that several cases of the chickenpox virus were reported at the Five Rivers Secondary School. The Office of the County Medical Officer of Health was alerted by the principal of the school of this occurrence. The CMOH, in collaboration with the school's principal and other key officials, have taken the necessary public health measures, which include closure and sanitization of the affected classrooms, as well as training of the Parent-Teacher Association at the school. This training included, but was not limited to, the provision of information relating to the clinical signs and symptoms, as well as preventative measures for the chickenpox virus. A Saparia East secondary student has been expelled from school after she was seen in a video verbally abusing a teacher in a classroom. A formal letter was sent to the girl's mother on Monday, informing her of the Ministry of Education's decision to expel her daughter. The girl was previously suspended for her actions, which included disruptive and unruly behavior, cursing the teacher, threatening and using aggressive, intimidating behavior towards the teacher, and gross disrespect towards authority. The letter stated the ministry's decision was final. Education Minister Dr. Leanne Gasby-Dolly said expelling a student is a last resort after all efforts to rehabilitate the child in the education system has had no positive effect on the behavior.
The expulsion of a student is a measure of last resort. After all efforts at rehabilitation available within the education system have not resulted in positive behavioral changes. The family of a child who has been expelled is referred in writing to the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, as well as the community police, so that those ministries and agencies can reach out to the family and offer the support available under their remit to the young person and the family. That support includes counseling, exposure to training programs, and community activities.
She said that there comes a point when having the students in the classroom becomes too disruptive and it becomes necessary to expel the student.
While every effort is made to support behavioral transformation of students within the school system, there comes a point where allowing the student to continue in the school environment is no longer in the best interest of the other students and teachers who have to contend with the unpleasant disruption of the learning environment. It puts other students' right to education at risk. The students who take videos of the event and post them on social media also deepen the effect of the infraction, as what may have been contained in a classroom and dealt with at a school level is now spread nationally and serves as negative inspiration for those students so inclined. There is no joy in expulsion, but when it is seen as necessary, that option will be exercised.
You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. On Thursday, the Regulated Industries Commission will present to the nation details on its final determination for the electricity transmission and distribution sector 2023 to 2027. This will be done at a news briefing from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Hilton Trinidad and Conference Center. The RIC is an independent statutory body established to ensure the promotion of the highest quality of utility services at fair and reasonable rates. The RIC regulates the delivery of services by the Water and Sewage Authority and the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. Government promises to probe claims by St. Augustine opposition member of parliament Khadija Amin of persons having to wait between 9 months to 1 year to get through with the application for senior citizens grants. The matter was raised by MP Amin during deliberations before the Standing Finance Committee on the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services on Wednesday. MP Amin said she received complaints from some persons in her constituency during the COVID-19 pandemic and even after about the long period they've been waiting to get through with their senior citizens grants.
What has been happening in St. Augustine is that it appears that there's a combination of problems with the shortage of contract officers to make the site visits, the field visits and investigations, and other issues that has been causing the people who apply for senior citizens grant when they make the application to be on a long waiting period. It is usually between 9 months to a year. It started during the COVID period, and we thought it was the challenges with COVID, but it has persisted and has gotten worse.
However, in response, Minister of Social Development and Family Services, Donna Cox, said a probe will be done into this development, but indicated there is a proper system in place to ensure the necessary verification is done on clients.
I am not aware that there is a longer waiting period because we signed an MOU with the Ministry of National Security and Immigration with regards to, because that is one of the outstanding information that is needed with regards to senior citizens application, and therefore they should be able to get that information even much quicker and be able to provide it. But we will look at it. Sometimes it's not just the visit, but sometimes the staff waiting for more information, because I do my checks too. And at times the application is incomplete and they would be waiting for the information from the clients also.
Straight into weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago's sunshine will likely be interrupted by a few cloudy intervals with showers, especially between late morning and mid-afternoon. There's a medium chance of isolated thunderstorm activity. Tonight will be generally settled apart from isolated showers. Street flooding and gusty winds are possible in the event of heavy downpours. You can expect a temperature high of 33 degrees Celsius, both at Piarco International Airport and Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 27 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 28 at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley asks Canada to help CARICOM and Trinidad and Tobago combat crime. Thousands of motorists and pedestrians delayed for hours yesterday as heavy downpours in Port of Spain caused flash flooding and standstill traffic. Health Ministry confirms several cases of the chickenpox virus at the Five River Secondary School, and a Siparia East secondary student is expelled from school after she's seen in a video verbally abusing a teacher in a classroom. I'm Afril Sindel-Bav. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. Of course, you join again at 8 o'clock for our news brief. Let's take a look at what's happening on the highways and the byways at this time. San Fernando, usual streets, Golacon Connector Road. You've got some traffic there. Taruba Link Road. Going through St. Madeleine, you also got some traffic. And of course, what road is that? I still don't know the road. It's not telling me. Anyway, let's head up north. On the Solo, you're going to get your traffic. Rivulet Road is heavy. Going through Point Lisa is also heavy. You can pick up your traffic from Charlieville, heading towards the interchange. From Endeavour, passing Chinchin Road, also got some traffic. Ibis Gardens, the highway. Leaving, passing through Santa Rosa, you've got a Piarco towards UE, Curep, straight into Port of Spain at Southern Main Road in Curep is heavy. Passing through the Eastern Main Road by Mokoya, also got some traffic. Out of Maraval, out of Digo, yep, heavy. All right, that's quick traffic update for you. Hope it helped you out in one way or the other. All right, let's get into the results of our morning poll. We asked you, do you agree with the Ministry of Education's expulsion of the 16-year-old female student? That was our poll. The results?
We had 23 people voting on the poll in the allotted time. Of the 23 people, 22 of you said yes. One person said no. So 22 of you said yes, you do agree with the expulsion, and one person said no, they did not agree with it. So that's the results. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, throughout programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Friday, because the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight that takes us into the glorious weekend when theater is once again on at Cipriani College. Yes. Where Bacchanal Bubble and Bad Behavior has been held over due to public demand. We had an amazing audience on Saturday and Sunday night, last Saturday and Sunday. I mean, absolutely packed with people, and they were roaring for that play. So lots of great reviews on the play. You can check RSRR Productions theater page to see some of them, for both actually, including Nikki Crosby, 50ish and Hot AF. But Bacchanal Bubble and Bad Behavior is the only one on this weekend. And of course, it's at Cipriani College on Saturday at 8:30, Sunday at 6:30. And of course, tickets are available at the Cipriani College box office from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. If you want tickets a little earlier in that area from 10 a.m., you can check Antoni's Florals at Valpark Shopping Plaza, which is just beneath the Valpark Chinese restaurant. Of course, Brentwood Mall in Chagonas, Creme Fresh also will have tickets for those of you in the central area and those of you from south. If you want to stop off in Brentwood Mall, that's where you can get tickets for the show this weekend. If you're in Port of Spain, Rumbox, and of course, Key Squared Fashions in West Mall and East Gates is where you can get tickets. Electronics in Arriba, Chamflair Auto Services in Chamflair, Jabili Brawe in Tunapuna. All of those are outlets where you can get tickets. And of course, in the Twin City area, besides East Gates, you can also get Fens of Marabella at Piarco Plaza.
Where's Nikki next?
What's that?
Where's Nikki going to be next?
I think she may be at Cipriani next weekend.
Okay, all right. I'll finally see it. That good. All right.
Yeah, because we are there this weekend being held over, and I think she's there next weekend. We swap.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but we won't be on next weekend.
So we get to see it. Yeah. Great. Korean got steated.
It hasn't been to Port of Spain yet. You've only been to South, and well, Cipriani was it was a really fantastic response last weekend. So we're there for this weekend again, Saturday and Sunday.
Papa, you.
So RSR Productions theater page, check it for all
Theater
of the up-to-date
theater
information.
conglomerate.
So I see Martin George is joining us now.
Theater beyond
Hi,
theater
good morning.
beyond theater. Theater like that. Morning, Martin George. How are you going, man?
Good morning, everyone. How are you all?
We're good.
All
We're
right.
good.
Not bad at all. How are you?
Good. Nice.
Is
Good
that
to see
banner
everyone.
exercise you just see in the background there is normal?
Exactly what I'm going to see.
Martin, you have to be very careful with this crowd. They always mark one in the background to see what people have in their house.
See what drinks
Is
you
that
have.
banner exercise unit right next to each other, right? Really?
They're very observant.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Is that a
It's
bottle of
like-
Macallan Scotch I'm seeing in the back there?
Exceptional marketing potential here. Exceptional. We like the TCPS, you know. We could find arms and ammunition, normal.
I saw they were questioning last night on the television whether the public considered it success if you find a large cache of arms and ammunition and nobody to arrest. Because this is like the second or third time.
Well, let's jump right in. What do you think? Kobe raised that question earlier on in the week. Good morning, by the way. Sorry about that.
Morning, everyone.
I commend the police for these huge illegal arms fines. And let me start by saying that, I've been commending them. They've been on a roll. They've laid charges in the Heights of Guanapo killings. They've laid charges in the Andrea Lala and her uncle killing. They've interdicted meth labs. They've interdicted marijuana fields, cocaine busts. They have been, and I always say, when they're bad, we mash them up. When they're good, let us commend them. You understand? So there have been two large illegal arms and ammunition, and now police uniform, siren, etc., fines in the Santa Cruz area in the last 2 weeks or so. But no arrests. Does that strike you as strange?
Well, the thing is, given the history of Trinidad and Tobago, where we have seen in the past a container with chicken, right? And instead you have drugs hidden inside the chicken parts. Remember the cocaine in the orange juice cans, and there were loud pronouncements that, yes, they're going to finally catch the big fish, etc. It appears that for whatever reason, we in Trinidad and Tobago, we are either good at finding the foot soldiers or the spoils of war, as opposed to finding the actual individuals who are in charge or responsible. I saw yesterday the Prime Minister in Canada, reaching out to Prime Minister Trudeau with a request for assistance from Canada. Now, I'm not sure what intelligence has led that, in the sense of whether the TTPS has provided our Prime Minister with information to say, well, look, there is a flow of arms and ammunition coming from Canada, or that Canada is somehow equipped or poised to be able to stop the flow of illegal arms and ammunition into Trinidad and Tobago.
He was suggesting Canada can help by providing ships, border patrol.
Okay, all right, yes. So then if that's the case, then that's fine if we get that additional assistance, But I mean, the reality is that it's at the source that we need to tackle this, rather than, you keep running after it, and you're picking up the pieces. You need to deal with the prevention rather than just trying to find the cure all the time.
No, for sure.
But
is it that, in your opinion, and this is something we have discussed on this program several times, whether the issue of that illegal influx of arms and ammunition, and of course the corresponding transnational crime element that has infiltrated Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's beyond our capabilities, and whether we just...
I don't think so. I don't think so, Richard. Let's look. Unfortunately, you may find I'm using it again as an example, but let's look at Singapore as an example. Singapore is quarter the size of Trinidad. Lots of people don't realize that. They feel Singapore is this big place. It's not. It's 1/4 the size of Trinidad. It's a small place. but yet still they have managed to be able to secure their borders, secure their population. They have law and order functioning. You see, it has to be part of a collective ethos that we in Trinidad and Tobago have to adopt and embrace, but it has to be led by the leaders. In other words, the leaders must have that vision. They must have that ability to say, well, look, we are putting country above self, country above party. And look for a long-term plan and a long-term solution to this, because that's the only thing that's going to save Trinidad and Tobago. If you're only working on a 5-year plan to win election, then clearly you're not going to solve anything. Look at the flooding.
While I understand the analogy of Singapore, I often think it's a misplaced analogy for many reasons. Size is not the only comparator. Singapore has a drastically different history with Lee Kuan Yew. And their social and cultural background is totally different to ours. It is a smaller place which may be easier to manage geographically for many different reasons. And Lee Kuan Yew wasn't. They used to call him the benevolent.
He was a dictator.
Yeah. We should have a dictator here, and we would respond the same way as they did to Lee Kuan Yew. No. So I often hear about this comparison to Singapore, and I ask myself, this is a false analogy.
Here's it. I wouldn't say it's a false analogy. I recognize that, yes, you're talking about different people, a different culture, but let's look at where they started. Singapore started as a very, they were lawless. They were totally lawless. They were.
Would Eric Williams have suffered the same fate, Dr. Eric Williams, had he been a benevolent dictator like Lee Kuan Yew?
Actually, it's questionable. It's questionable because I think at that time, at that point, maybe there was the opportunity to pull Trinidad and Tobago up by the bootstraps. And he may have gotten away with it. Eric Williams may have gotten away with it.
I ain't sure about that.
Because I think that, let me tell you, I think that people more bought into his vision for developing TNT than maybe any other prime minister. So it might have been possible. And the thing is, Paul, regardless of whether or not, yes, his time has passed and yes, we have new leaders, unless we start to change the thinking, and I am convinced the mindset and thinking of a population can change, and it can be done once there is good leadership at the top. Right? It so turned out, even though he was a benevolent dictator, he really had the best interests of his country at heart. Now, you have other types of dictators who are able to change the minds and hearts of people. You look at Hitler, a man who was 5 foot something with brown hair and brown eyes, who convinced millions of Germans that the ideal male should be 6 feet tall, of Aryan stock with blue eyes and blonde hair, none of which Hitler himself had. That's the amazing thing about it. He had none of the qualities that he espoused as the ideal male, but yet still he was able to convince millions of Germans to follow in his, Aryan philosophy and his Nazism. So it is possible to convince your population to align them to your ideals. But of course, you need a leader whose heart and mind is in the right place, who is really looking for the best interests of the country, as opposed to, self-serving leaders that we've had, unfortunately, at some point in time of our history in Trinidad and Tobago.
But doesn't that process get more and more difficult in an information age?
Yes, it does.
Because, because everybody's an expert.
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry lad has an opinion.
Yep, right, and everybody's an expert on everything. Everybody's an expert on everything. And
Remember
people
during the pandemic when one of the reporters had to be reminded, that Dr. Google is not the same as the Oxford trained Dr. Avery Hines. The point is, in an information age, and it's sometimes, actually, Richard, you raise a good point, because sometimes it's a misinformation age, because you look at even this current Israel-Palestinian conflict, and what the news agencies are saying is that every day they are battling misinformation, which is being fed to them, for them to put out there. Of course, some of them either deliberately or accidentally still put out misinformation. If you follow me, because you look at some media outlets, you swear Israel is an angel and the Palestinians are all little brown devils running around the place.
I am actually glad that someone had the testicular fortune to say it, because it's so contentious that if you prefer, because I mean America and the UK are clearly staying on the side of their traditional ally, which is Israel.
Of course.
And I am not saying I am backing Hamas. I think Hamas is a terrorist group also.
Right.
But I don't think Israeli people should be suffering because of Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, people are dying. I mean, the videos and the information.
You mean the Palestinian people? You mean the Palestinians?
Sorry, yeah. It is so heart-wrenching and atrocious because war takes no prisoners.
Yes, of course.
And there are casualties on both sides, horrific casualties on both sides.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's right.
of course, Israel has more firepower, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying Israel shouldn't defend itself, because from my understanding, Hamas drew the first blood by firing at Israel first and killing people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are as powerful as Israel, and the contention from what I've heard is that Hamas has to give up and surrender and lay down their arms before the shelling stops. And while the Israelis may not be directly targeting civilians are dying.
Yes. I mean,
so,
500 people died in a hospital yesterday. And, both sides pointing
including children.
Saying
including aid workers, including volunteers.
Well, the fog of war, I mean, much has been written on that.
Yeah.
Which deals with the misinformation and who is right. And what's the correct information coming out anytime there is war.
But two sides can be wrong, eh?
Yes, yeah. And the thing is, an interesting analysis, Paul, that a lot of people are afraid to even touch upon or even expose, is that you look back historically and you recognize that most of the wars that have been fought over time on the face of the earth have had some sort of religious underpinning or religious fundamentalism driving it. And you ask yourself, is that really the purpose of
religion? They're killing in the name of God.
Is that really and you're talking about both sides have done it. When Christians came to conquer the new world, they slaughtered lots of people. And as you say, it was all done in the name of God. So therefore you ask yourself, why have we as human beings not been able to evolve past these things and be able to see one another as human beings, whether black, white, green, brown, pink, purple, whatever, if you understand me.
And now it's actually turned into an information war, because while the war is going on, there's another war on the air on the West and the East, and in the Middle East has one perspective, Al Jazeera as a perspective, CNN from America as a perspective, BBC from the UK as a perspective, and it's all nuanced by people's sociology and their belief systems.
Yes.
Right? So we're talking about this one right and this one wrong, people dying. So I don't know how anybody could be right or justified when a bomb falls and kills a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
From either side. I saw a video of a child. That video stuck with me, and the child was in a hospital being comforted by a doctor. The child was just shaking. This 3-year-old child was just shaking. Still boy. And the doctor trying to calm him down because he's so shell shocked. And when the doctor finally hugged him and kissed his forehead, the child burst into tears. Because how do you get over that in your life?
Yeah. But speaking of killing of children, we can't forget, the massacre that occurred with those 4 children. Thankfully the police have arrested someone. But what is bothering me in this whole scenario is what is the motive that was behind that? Because it does not seem normal or natural. 4 children killed, 5 adults shot. That seemed to me, Paul, that somebody was sending a message. Richard, I don't know how you see it, but it seemed like because clearly the children were not involved in any criminal activity or anything of the sort. Nobody wanted the children on any hit list.
And no parents in the house.
Maybe somebody connected with the family that maybe a message was being sent there. And this is where, I fault our policing, because we don't ever seem to go to the root. So in other words, okay, yes, you have the shooter. Yeah, I'm fine that I'm glad you arrested the shooter, but who the hell sent him? You understand the absurdity of what we do in Trinidad and Tobago? You arrest 6 men in a car, saying that they're on their way to kill Lurbs. Who the hell sent them to kill Lurbs? Why are you not going beyond that? You charge those 6 men, parade them before the court as criminals. Of course, yes, they are, because they participated. But who had a motive, who had a reason to send them to kill Lurbs?
Just now.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation. and I don't know.
Wow.
And
what a motive to kill Libs, Martin. What a motive to kill Libs, Martin. And for those who run the Libs is a PG when they're in a viral video.
And it comes back, Martin, to my initial question. Do we have the capabilities to deal with this problem? And I know we have international assistance.
With about 7,000 members. What the hell they're doing? 7,000. When you look at our ratio of police to population, we have one of the highest ratios in the world, Most places do not have that kind of, and then they're talking about adding more recruits, Adding more recruits willy-nilly is not the solution to the problem, with the greatest of respect to the Minister of Finance. It sounds good on paper, and it sounds as if, well, yes, we're doing something. But the point is, if you are saying that your police service is corrupt to the core, all you are doing is recruiting more young, possibly corrupt police officers. Because once they get into the system, they learn the ropes and they figure, well, hey, everybody else doing this, so I'm doing it too. And if they end up like Bernadette, who was shot, that woman police officer, come on, we know what goes on.
And bringing new recruits, even though you're training them, you say when to train them differently, because I don't know what's happening if I'm training the new ones, the ones who they know differently anyway, because you could retrain. You could retrain. You don't have to wait for new people to retrain.
Yeah.
Okay? And having the same management acumen or lack thereof is not going to make a big difference,
Or not just that, having the same performance measuring criteria. Because if it is that you look at the performance and you grade yourself as 100% and you describe your record as perfect, when in the face of all that is happening, then of course you have to ask yourself, bringing in more recruits, is that going to make a difference? Because in other words, if you already feel you're perfect, then you don't need any improvement as far as you see it. If you have achieved that state of perfection, you're not aspiring to do better. So, we have to start calling a spade in this country. And, our politicians, because of, I think, political expediency, they have allowed things to happen. They have coddled, persons who have been incompetent, inefficient, and I have made no mention of any, minister with dreadlocks or anything of the sort in my conversation, right? But they have encouraged inefficiencies and incompetencies for the sake of political expediency, because in other words, they feel, well, look,
there are only 3 ministers with dreadlocks.
And I made no mention of any.
Okay. So, and we're talking about crime. You as an attorney can put it together, okay? There are 3, to my knowledge, there are 3 ministers with dreadlock. Case Cotton have a piece of dreadlock.
well, the lesson about that.
Adrian Leon has a dreadlock, and Gerald Hines has a dreadlock. I don't know that any other male members have dreadlocks, so you could narrow it down. I don't feel like Steve Keith Cotton qualified to be called a dreadlock yet. So,
yeah, I think so.
And Adrian Leon is in the Ministry of Housing. So be careful.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is that you look at these things and you ask yourself, is this the reason? And so it comes back to Richard's question in terms of whether we have the capability. I think we do have the capability, but if it is that you are encouraging nonsense from the top, then you are not going to get that level of improvement. And
but it's not because in many cases, and it happened when the present opposition was in government, and now it seems to be happening when the present government is at the reins, that because we are in such a contentious political environment, a lot of the decisions are made for to maintain a particular political optic. So
Yes.
even if well, you know, under this person happening, you know, because the other side say change, they mind changing it.
And not just that, there's also the narrative that follows, oh, well, you know, if you change this person, then they will say your government has collapsed, call elections, you know. You know, that's the usual narrative that flows from the opposition, whoever's in opposition, right? So therefore, you see these things happening. You see the government having to stick resolutely, you know, behind certain individuals where it is clear that, look, something is amiss. And, you know, we have to reach that level of political maturity whereby we are able to say, hey, listen, yes, this person did wrong, this person needed to change. Look at the speaker in Canada, the Speaker of the House in Canada. He had to go. Because how on earth could you invite a Nazi, a known Nazi, into your, you know, your ceremony, and you have people giving him a standing ovation, and you were aware of the man's status?
Yeah, and what is good about those systems is that they don't linger and say, well, they go one time.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, there are two aspects to it, Paul. There's the moral imperative, whereby they have developed over time this system or custom or norm whereby, hey, listen, it's the honorable thing to do, it's the decent thing to do, I have to step down. I mean, Boris Johnson in the UK tested it almost to the limit, but eventually he himself had to go, if you understand me, right? Because of the norms. But separate and apart from that, there are the legislative and the societal pressures which are going to be on you to say, hey, listen, no, we as a nation not tolerating it. But you know what? In Trinidad and Tobago, we're more concerned that a Venezuelan went up to represent us than 4 children were killed, and, you know, in a scenario where you really don't have any idea as to what was the real motive behind it. You know, so I mean, there's nothing wrong with people being concerned about, you know, the beauty pageant, etc. But all I keep saying is that, listen, there's more to life than that, Paul. We have to be able to focus on serious issues at some point in time. We can't just be engaged in frivolity and, you know, idleness and you know, movilang and gossip. We have at some points to take stock of ourselves and say, hey, listen, are we going to try and save TNT or not?
But what's your view, Martin, on the issue of the crime talks between the opposition and the present government?
Well, Richard, where are they now? Where are those talks? If you understand me, they haven't even begun, and you see it already descending into Bacchanal, right? Over who is going to be present at the talks, who not going to be present, what is going to be the agenda. So if they cannot even get their act together at this stage, I see very little fruit being born from those talks, because at the end of the day, I think, let me tell you, in some way, a lot of these current politicians, they are too hardened and too steeped in their ways. So even though they put on a thin veneer of civility when dealing with the other side, the hatred and the tensions and the animosity, it still lingers deep within, and they can't get it out of their system. So even though you will see, they try to start off nice, you know, they really try to start off nice. So they're making a presentation about crime and they're talking about the overall thing, but then they have to throw in some little pikong or movelang for the opposition. Then the opposition gets riled up and they throw back pikong, and then it just descends into the theater of the absurd. That's what our parliament, I mean, of course, with full respect to present company, but that's what certain parts of our...
I sit and watch it, so you don't have to apologize. There's no apology needed there, because sometimes you ask yourself, well, is this supposed to be the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago?
Exactly.
Is this actually going to end up benefiting what I'm seeing and hearing here? Is this in furtherance of the interest of the people in Trinidad and Tobago who pay us? So you're not wrong in many instances. You're not wrong at all. But when are we going to get the kind of leaders? Because it's not one leader. I always say the teams take their cues from the leaders.
Of course.
And the leaders not only in government and opposition, the leaders in business. Because there is a conversation we've been having in this country for about 20 plus years, about 20, 25 years, about the people who are really the funders and the who have so-called legitimate businesses, who are the ones who are bringing in the guns and the drugs, who seem to be untouchable, who in some instances there is a conversation about whether or not they are piling money into either or both political parties. And it's easy to go and grab a little black boy and make no apology for saying it for the arms find in Santa Cruz if they get to that point. But that young boy is not the one who bring in the container with the guns.
That's the point.
And that person, because there have been so many gun cash seizures at legal ports in Trinidad and Tobago with no arrests.
That's right. But yet the container had a consignee. It was consigned to somebody.
Identified.
It was sent by somebody.
And no one arrested. So there seems to be a reluctance or an unwillingness to deal with that side of it, because those people, and I've said it over and over, seem untouchable.
Indeed, Paul, indeed. And I mean, it is a reality. And, the thing is, we have to be able to have that confidence and that strength of character to be able to stand up and speak out on these issues. And that's why, I mean, regardless of whatever, I always try to make myself present for these shows, because I think that, there's a time for, the Bible says, there's a time for laughter, there's a time for sorrow, there's a time for, peace, there's a time for war. And there's a time sometimes for serious conversation and discussion as to the future of Trinidad and Tobago and where we're going. Because, all of us are invested in this country one way or the other, right? If it isn't, financial investment, it's investment of your heart, your soul, your culture, your values, your children, your family, your friends. So the point is, we all have a nation to save. And we need to understand that we have to be able to look beyond the political blinkers. And, that's why I admire some of our other Caribbean countries. I mean, like, you look at somewhere like Barbados, and regardless of the fact that, they may have their party loyalty, you know what? Their loyalty is to Barbados first, Their loyalty is to Barbados first. But we in Trinidad and Tobago can't seem to get beyond the yellow and the red, and we have ourselves tied up and wrapped up in knots because of that. And you hear people spouting things passionately, And I mean, there's nothing wrong with you having your party support, but at some point you must be able to disaggregate and make that distinction and say, well, hey, listen, let's look at the bigger picture as to what is good for Trinidad and Tobago, and let the chips fall where it may. So in other words, if it's good for my party, so be it. If it works out to be against my party, so be it. But the bigger idea, the bigger ideal is that we are trying to build a nation, trying to salvage a nation. And that's what we have to focus on. And as I told you, Paul, I don't think some of our current politicians or current leaders are capable of making that change anymore. I think they're too hard.
I think they're capable. I think the problem is that they are either consumed with either staying in power or getting in power.
Yes, right. That's right.
I think that is the challenge that faces. Because I think we have very bright people in this country. Very bright people.
There's no doubt.
I think on both the government and the opposition, and the people, and also the people available to them.
Yes,
because you don't have to be in government or opposition to be a contributor. Because Dr. Terence Farrell, several others who have made themselves available became frustrated by the system because at one point they realized that well, you asked me here for my expertise, you say you have respect for my expertise, and I am globally renowned, and then I tell you to do X and you didn't what you want because and then it was your papi showing me. So this country has very bright people. This country has spent billions of dollars educating for the last 20 plus years, people at the tertiary level, post-grad level, PhD level, who are willing and able to contribute, and they just get frustrated because they make themselves available. They give their expertise. We come up with all these grandiose plans and papers and documents that the way forward. And they're very good documents, don't get me wrong, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Vision 2020 or Vision 2030, no matter who you feel made it, was crafted by not only PNM or UNC people, but by people across the board.
Yes.
From private sector, from academia, and it's a very good document. Implementation is atrocious in this country, and accountability. And the problem is that if people like you or I speak out on what we truly believe are the issues, we either branded UNC, PNM, or haters of the government, or lovers of the UNC, or haters of the UNC, or lovers of the government,
Yeah.
and in between, the two shall never meet. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So each of the two major entities has their supporters, who in some instances, not all instances, it's all or nothing.
Yes.
And we have at one time hoped, well, maybe it was an era of politicians. But then the young ones go into the parties and they become indoctrinated, and it's the same status quo. I mean, at what point are we going to get?
The comfort I take, Paul, is that we are not alone. You look at the US and look at how they are now stymied, even just to elect a House Speaker within the own Republican Party. They have their internecine warfare going on, and they are not even able to resolve that. They are not able to reach across the aisle to the Democrats to say, well, hey, let's build a bridge, let's form some kind of consensus. You know, I mean, the Democrats say that they are willing to have consensus, but then even that, you don't know how far they themselves are willing to go, because their positions are both hardened so much against one another that they have, I mean, the problem magnified on an even bigger scale that's played out on the world stage every day. You know, but the thing is, we in Trinidad and Tobago have to look at ourselves and see how we can bridge this divide, how we can, you know, change this. I mean, in 1986 with the NAR and One Love, you know, I mean, it was like an overwhelming, you know, feeling of frustration, I think, from the public generally that, you know, I guess brought people together. But the point is, it turned out that those were, you know, very frail unions and fragile relationships.
But Martin, we've had points in our history where the country has spoken. NAR is one. When Mrs. Pasabi Sessa and the People's Partnership were elected, also it was a referendum on the late Patrick Manning at that time, and then the confidence in that government was frittered by allegations of corruption and mismanagement. Yeah. And then now we're having the same conversation again, not about corruption, but about poor management and a lack of the ability to move it forward. So, you know, at what point are we going to mature enough to say, you know what, this might not be in the best interest of the party, but I would move the country forward on either side.
And that's where we need to get to. That's where we need to get to, because without that, we are going to be having the same conversation, Richard and Paul and Steve, 10 years, 20 years from now, and still wondering what can we do to save TNT.
But if you look at the two major parties right now, and you have to look at the UNC and the People's National Movement, both of their leaders are prospectively on their way out. They're not young.
Really?
They're not young.
Somebody told you that.
They're not young.
Big presumption there.
Yeah, no, but one thing is that they're not young, so at some point they're going to be on their way out. Whom are you all seeing? I shouldn't say whom. Are you all seeing the evidence of the kind of leadership that you're having this discussion about in both parties that can emerge post the current crop of leaders? Because we know the leadership style of the current leaders.
I don't think it's about the leaders as much as a change in the party's philosophies.
Ah, that's right.
Because if the party's philosophy stay the same, it'll just be an indoctrination and an extension of the mindset.
I want to disagree with you, you know. I think leaders can change culture.
Right. No, Richard, we're not saying
I agree with that, but I'm saying with the present mechanism
manifested, it is difficult for the present potential successors to be able to effect that kind of change. A change agent may have to come from outside, if you understand me. right? Because you look at any of the upcoming ones, you may say, well, okay, look, they appear different now. But once they assume that leadership role and the party hierarchy starts to put that pressure on them, Richard, it is a hell of a thing for them to change it from within. Seriously.
And you know why? You know why? Primarily, I will tell you one of the big issues facing, and I have no evidence to support it, but there is a perception by the rank and file, and it can be broken, that if my party not in power, I do get. So a lot of the rabbit support, whether they're doing good or they're doing bad, on either side, is because of a perception of an inequitable distribution of resources depending on who's in power.
But remember the classic expression is "we time now." You know, that's how it's viewed. You know, I saw you all they had all the time to thief. Well, is "we time now." You know,
that's not what she said.
You know? No. I'm not saying.
That is not the implication I got. It's our turn to be in power, and we will do things our way. Let us not. No. You want an attorney? This is an attorney. I have to hire an attorney. That's the difference. Okay.
Look, Richard, they're available.
No, he don't do pro bono work. No.
Richard can offer his service.
But I mean, because it always comes back to leadership and not only leadership, but the ability of the country to implement in a timely manner. I am seeing the Minister of Works talking about the Point Fortin Highway, and I'm paraphrasing him, and you know that no city or town should be more than 30 minutes away, and they working on a road plan, blah 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 blah. Road plan network. And I'm saying, but wait, this road plan network was done under Patrick Manning. I remember distinctly when Patrick Manning was in power, they paid millions and millions of dollars for a road network plan. And they're still referencing some 1967 document or something like that. I think I see. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Because I remember when that plan, and I remember we discussed it on the Power Breakfast show, because it was millions of dollars for this road network plan, where Patrick Manning articulated that no town or village should be more than 30 minutes away via the road network. Wherever you are in Trinidad, it should not take you more than 30 minutes to get to wherever you want to go. That was the ultimate barometer. And decades later, we still in the process of trying to implement that.
Look at what happened yesterday in Port of Spain. You know, you had people complaining that it took them 2 hours to get from by Queen's Hall to downtown, you know, because of the gridlock traffic. 2 hours. So, and I mean, now that is also a fault of our road system, because at the end of the day, if you don't have proper drainage on the sides of your roads, you are going to have the flooding occurring. You know, or if the drainage isn't cleaned out properly or efficiently. So this is all part of it. You know, I recall recently the Minister of Works had indicated that we are spending on average about over $600,000 per day on road repairs. And, you know, I saw some public comments and people were basically asking where. You know, because, you know, they were not seeing the evidence of it. You know, I mean, the Minister of Finance spoke about a pothole repair plan as part of his budget presentation. In fact, he described us as pothole nation. So, I mean, it appears that, okay, maybe they intended to address it. But, you know, when you're talking about just patching potholes, you really basically just putting a plaster on a saw. There are some roads that actually need to be resurfaced entirely. And that's the only way you can get it done in a proper way that is going to be lasting and sustainable. Otherwise, you know, your major companies are going to forever be, you know, laughing all the way to the bank because they're forever patching potholes.
Well, a major part, I know we're touching on various topics here this morning. I
think it always happens.
I just wanted to touch.
Yesterday, just before we go from transportation, the primary issue that yesterday happened is a larger issue. That we spent $450 million on PTSC every year to transport 3% of the population. And they don't want to fix PTSC. Because if people had faith in a reliable, safe, public transportation system, everybody wouldn't feel to drive.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be able to fix PTSD and put a proper mass transit system alongside because maxis can only carry so much in place, and it doesn't have to be a railway. If PTSC, the bus service, is working effectively, reliable, safe, you have proper decent city gate facility, because that ain't decent. One in Kirep, one in Sao, one in Arima, one in Tunapuna, one in Chaguanas, one in Siparia, one in San Fernando, where people can actually go and park their cars if they're living in the general area and jump in a bus, get to Port of Spain and take a smaller transport to their office. People wouldn't go into drive into Port of Spain. But the main issue with yesterday is the inadequacy of our mass transit system in PTSC. They should change it to PTCSC, a P City public transportation system. Because it is abhorrently bad in this day and age. They're talking about this app for about 3 years now. Like it takes 3 years to develop an app to tell us that buses on the way to Samo or Mova Junction or Chaguanas. You understand? And that you can't put a digital sign on a bus stop and say bus 3 minutes away.
Yeah,
you understand?
They talked about that years ago. They talked about that. Comes back to my implementation thing, Martin.
Yes,
implementation
right.
thing.
And the thing is, remember, it's compounded by the fact that I think I saw a report some time ago where they say they have 45 different types of buses in PTSC. So ordering parts and keeping stock up inventory and everything is a nightmare.
Martin George, PTSD feels that the public don't need public transport on a public holiday.
Yes, it's true. Yes.
That tells you how incompetent PTSD is. Sanctioned by the line minister clearly. How you could not have public transport while they're available on a public holiday.
Yes.
I mean, and an efficient public transportation system also improves public safety. Yeah?
Of course.
But
the point is, Paul, I mean, you just look at any metropolitan country or any major city in the world, you recognize that the mass public transport system is basically the heartbeat of it. You know, I mean, let me tell you, the way they design cities in Japan is just so amazing. Do you know the cities are designed around the transportation systems? So in other words, you have your transport system that runs from wherever you live, right? So you might have to take a local bus to get to the rail or the tube or the metro. But the point is, once you get there, that metro is connected.
You can go anywhere. You can go everywhere.
In addition to which, they do it in levels such that you have the B1 level, which is the supermarkets, the groceries, the fishmongers, the greengrocers, the restaurants. So you have everything there around your transportation hub.
But we spend $400 million every year to keep PTSD going for that level of incompetence. It's sad.
Yeah, it really is.
And that is the real issue with what happened yesterday. People think it's about flood. It's not about flood, you know. It's about a non-existent, effective public transportation system.
Yeah, to move
that was the problem yesterday. So that the road is so filled with buses that we dodging that event yesterday every other day, depending on what natural issue, or if it have a bomb scare in Port of Spain, or whatever the exigent circumstances, because PTSD is a complete and utter failure.
Yeah, no, you're quite
as
right.
a mass transit system.
Could I ask at this point to be excused?
We have to go to. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Go and jump on your exercise bike with your martini and your scotch and your.
It's the best of both worlds. I look at it that way.
Thank you, Martin.
All right, have a good morning. Take care.
All right, thanks a lot, Martin.
All right, thanks, Martin, for being with us. It's Martin George, attorney at law. All right. Okay, gentlemen, I know you got to go.
Have a great day. Be safe.
This is where we wrap it up on this morning, this Thursday morning. Of course, the weekend begins tonight. People at the second after midnight. Just reminding you, of course, the theaters on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Bacchanal, Bubble, and Bad Behavior is back at Cipriani College due to overwhelming public demand. We had such wonderful audiences last weekend. And as I said before, there are excellent reviews that you can see on RSRR Productions theater page. You can get tickets at all our usual outlets. Check RSRR Productions theater page for more information. And of course, the box office at Cipriani College opens from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do, and speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning.
All right, Rich, of course, Wendell Stephen. I did not freeze. I just don't know what that was. He had too much coffee. All right, folks. Wendell Stephen will join us tomorrow morning.